The morning sun had barely warmed the training grounds when the insult landed sharp, loud, and meant to hurt. "You're useless," someone shouted, laughter spilling out like spilled oil. The words were not aimed at the wind, they were aimed at her. The rifle in her hands had jammed again, and the soldiers around her looked like they were enjoying the moment. She could feel their eyes on her, mocking, impatient, hungry for a show. Her palms were sweating, her heart was pounding. She wanted to disappear, she wanted to run. She didn't. She stood still, gripping the broken weapon like it was a part of her body, and listened to the cruel confidence in their voices. They didn't know she could hear the fear behind her own shaking breath. "Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you rewatching from. I love knowing who's listening." The squad leader stepped closer, his boots kicking up dust that glittered in the sunlight. He snapped the rifle out of her hands like it was trash. "We don't have time for this," he said. "You can't even keep your weapon functioning. Go back to the barracks." Her face burned with humiliation, not because she was weak, but because they were wrong about her. She was not useless. She had just been broken down by too many expectations and too little understanding. She watched as the rifle fell into the dirt and the men began to laugh again, their voices echoing like a storm of stones. Her hands trembled, not from fear, from anger. Inside her, a voice whispered, "You don't belong here. You never will." But another voice answered, steady and cold, "You will show them." She crouched beside the rifle, pretending to clean the dust away. The men didn't bother to look closer. They didn't see her eyes, narrowed and focused. They didn't hear her breath steadying into a rhythm, the way a calm heartbeat can steady a shaking hand. The rifle was worse than she expected. The barrel was bent slightly. The trigger mechanism had been tampered with. The sight was misaligned, like a crooked smile on a face that wanted to be serious. It wasn't just jammed, it was sabotaged. Her mind raced. She could have reported it. She could have begged for another rifle. She could have stayed silent and let the humiliation continue. But something inside her refused to accept defeat. She found a small toolkit in her pack, something she always carried, even though no one knew why. She began to work with quiet precision. Her fingers moved like she'd done this 1,000 times before, even though this was the first time anyone had seen her do it. She disassembled the rifle carefully, her hands steady despite the pressure in the air. The men began to notice. A few glanced over with curiosity, then turned back to their jokes. They still believed she was incapable. They still believed the story they wanted to be true. But she knew something they didn't. She knew the rifle wasn't broken. It was broken on purpose, and she knew exactly how to fix it. The sun climbed higher, turning the training field into a bright, harsh stage. The air was thick with dust and sweat. A few soldiers were already lining up to shoot, waiting for their turn. The sound of gunfire was constant, a rhythmic percussion that kept time with her heartbeat. She tightened a screw, adjusted the sight, tested the trigger. She felt the rifle respond beneath her hands like a living thing waking up. Then she stood. The laughter stopped. The squad leader stared, his expression shifting from amusement to confusion. "What are you doing?" he demanded. She didn't answer. She lifted the rifle, placed her shoulder against it, and looked downrange. The targets were lined up like silent witnesses, 50 of them, each one a small challenge. Each one a test of focus, skill, and nerve. She took a breath. The air tasted like dust and iron. Her hands were steady now, not because she was fearless, but because she had chosen to be brave. The first shot rang out, clean and confident. The second shot followed, then the third. One by one, the targets fell, each bullet finding its mark like it had been drawn there by fate. The sound of each hit echoed in the stillness, and with every strike, the soldiers' faces changed. The laughter faded. The whispers began. "Is she really doing this? No way, that can't be real." The wind moved across the field, stirring dust in thin spirals. The squad leader's jaw tightened. He stepped forward, as if to stop her, as if to reclaim control of the situation. But he didn't speak. He couldn't. She kept going. Shot after shot. 50 targets. 50 perfect hits. The final target fell with a soft thud, and for a moment the world went silent. Even the wind seemed to pause. Then the soldiers erupted, not with mockery, but with stunned applause. It was slow at first, hesitant, like they couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. But the sound grew, becoming genuine, becoming respectful. The squad leader looked at her with a new expression. Not pride, not admiration, something deeper, something like fear. Because the truth was undeniable. They had been wrong, and she had just proven it. She lowered the rifle, her chest rising and falling with a quiet intensity. She looked at the broken weapon in her hands, the one they thought was worthless, and felt a strange kind of peace. It wasn't revenge, it was something more powerful. It was validation. The squad leader approached her, his voice softer now. "How did you?" She didn't answer. She only shook her head, as if the question was meaningless. The rifle wasn't about him. It wasn't about them. It was about her. She had been called useless. But she had turned their doubt into proof. Because strength isn't measured by what others think of you. It's measured by what you do when they doubt you. And in that dusty field, under the harsh sun, she proved that the loudest voices are not always the strongest. Because real power doesn't need permission. It earns respect. And it never asks to be believed. If you want to hear more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. And remember, let someone else decide what you're capable of. Because the people who doubt you today might be the ones clapping tomorrow.